Hey everybody, I'm back! So yeah, I know I missed the August version of this series, so to make up for it, I'm gonna be doing a August and September combination video that's probably gonna end up being a two-parter. You'll know if this says part 1 in the video title. For those of you who might not know or remember exactly what this is just gonna be me going over my general thoughts on the things that I watched for the first time over the course of, usually it's 1 month, but we're doing 2 this time. So the time codes to each movie are gonna be in the description in case you want to skip one or not have it spoiled or just jump to one that you're particularly interested in. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Annette is a really strange movie. This is a musical about a comedian played by Adam Driver and an opera singer played by Marianne Cotillard who have a child together. I won't say how they show this child, but it's pretty off the wall, as is most of the movie. My big issue with this comes down to its presentation. It's presented like it's a expanded stage play, and that kind of doesn't allow them to take full advantage of the medium that this is in. It's a film after all, and it generally felt pretty messy in terms of its presentation and pacing, and it also felt way too long and didn't really have me emotionally hooked, which is what I end up saying about a lot of musicals. But I respect the hell out of the ambition on display here. They had a very clear vision for what they wanted to do with this movie, and they fully committed to it. Adam Driver and Marianne Cotillard were great as usual, and even Simon Helberg from the Bazinga show ended up doing really well with the limited time that he had to shine. This definitely isn't for everybody, but I feel like it's not getting as much attention as it probably deserves. I'd recommend you at least give this one a chance. 7 out of 10. Badlands. This is an early movie from one of the more well-known art house directors out there, Terrence Malick, and it covers the true story of a couple in the 50s who went on a killing spree across the state of South Dakota. Now this movie is more known for pretty much being a launching pad for most of its major players' careers, and it's one of those that I really appreciate more than I actually like it. The movie is well acted and it looks gorgeous, as would be expected if you're familiar with any other Terrence Malick movie, but the execution of the story really left something to be desired. About halfway through it starts getting gripping and the main relationship expands a bit as the character of Holly kinda starts to realize that Kit isn't really what she thought he was, but then the story just kinda stalls and it doesn't really feel like there's any more real development until the finale happens. It's an interesting movie, and as I said, I appreciate it more than I actually like it, so I mean, if the description sounds good to you, you might want to check this one out, because it does have its place in film history. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10, but that's just my opinion. Birds of Prey. I watched this for the first time after seeing The Suicide Squad, which I'll get to later, but this focuses mainly on Harley Quinn, but becomes more of an ensemble piece after the first 20 minutes or so. I should point out that this movie does have an interesting and entertaining style to it, but that's about the only thing that I can say I truly enjoyed about it. It tried something new, and I respect that. I really just find the character of Harley Quinn really irritating. I mean, apparently people give her credit for being very comic book accurate, and if that's how she is in the comics, cool. That doesn't mean her character's good. I honestly don't know why they chose to go the R-rated route with this movie, because the humor honestly feels tailored more toward 12 to 15-year-olds. The rest of the cast ranged from alright to forgettable. Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character was severely underutilized. When we got a montage of her backstory, all I could think to myself was, why do bad DC movies just love to tease the audience with better stories than the one they're showing us? On the whole, I probably won't think about this one again unless I'm reminded of its existence through someone else's commentary. 4 out of 10. Black Mirror Bandersnatch. I'm honestly surprised that I never watched this when it was more trendy a few years ago, but the general synopsis is that this is like a film version of a choose-your-own-adventure book, and it was pretty neat. I'm not too familiar with Black Mirror. I've only seen a few episodes from season 3, but this made me want to maybe check out more of it. This idea was very clearly meant to play with the unique features that streaming services offer, and the way they go about executing this concept kind of messes with your head in an existential way. There was the occasional piece of questionable acting, and sometimes the point they were trying to get across was just too blatant, but I overall had a really fun time with this, and I'd be interested to see more things like this that take advantage of streaming service features in a way that you directly contribute to. I'd recommend you check this out if you haven't already. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Clickbait. I just finished this. This is a modern whodunit series, and it's pretty effective sometimes at subverting expectations, as any series like this should be. I mean, it wouldn't really be all that interesting if the most obvious character just ended up being the one who did it, but ultimately it gets dragged down by some logistical problems. Like, there were a number of times where I found myself thinking, why are you going to see that person right now? Are you trying to make yourself look as suspicious as possible? I just spit all over the laptop. I'm gonna leave it in. I also won't give the specifics of it, but there's a point where they show a relevant piece of information, and then a couple episodes later it's revealed that that just never actually happened. Like, that's not a clever twist, that's just cheating. You're lying, that never happened. You're tearing me apart, Clickbait. 5 out of 10. Dr. Strangelove. This is another Stanley Kubrick movie that I hadn't seen yet, and I really loved this. As far as I know, this is the most overtly comedic movie that Kubrick ever made, and it was nice to see that he had that kind of versatility. Black comedies really hit home with me, especially ones that offer real-world satire, and while it is a bit of a weird experience seeing satirical material from a time period that I have absolutely no personal connection to, it was cool to see, from what I know about 60s Cold War era America, this genius artistic voice getting across the absurdity of the situation. I love this movie's style, and it seems to be growing on me the more I think about it with time, and the only real issue I would have is that the pacing sometimes seems a little off. Everything that's shown feels necessary, but sometimes things go on a little too long for my taste. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 for now, but that could very well change in the future. Free Guy. This is the new Ryan Reynolds movie where he plays a video game NPC. Now, for those of you who aren't professional video gamers like me, that stands for non-player character. Now, I like Ryan Reynolds, all things considered, but I feel like he's becoming one of those cult of personality actors. I'll be talking about another one in a little bit, but what I mean by that is an actor who's a big enough draw that a studio can just throw together the most bare bones thing imaginable and just say to themselves, oh, well, Ryan Reynolds is in this. People like him, so this is a guaranteed success no matter what. We don't even have to try to make anything memorable or worthwhile. Add in the fact that for a movie centered around the structure of a video game, it feels like it was written by someone who's never touched a video game in their lives, and if they ever did, it was at least 10 years ago. I would be a little more forgiving with this movie because for the most part it kind of tries to be its own thing, despite being derivative of something like Ready Player One, but then, during the climax of the movie, out of nowhere, and for no reason at all, it just becomes a look, it's the Avengers. Look, it's Star Wars. Look, the Hulk fist punched big Ryan Reynolds. I know what that is. That's a thing from another thing that I like, and I like that they used the thing from the other thing that I like. This is what movies are now. Apparently some people like all the Easter eggs that can be seen in it, and yeah, I noticed those too, but that's not the movie's doing. That's just showing a thing from another thing. That's not what makes a movie good. Really, the alternate title to this movie could be Pandering to Reddit, the movie. 3 out of 10. The Green Knight. I thought this was fantastic, and I already made a review for it. Go check that out if you want. Jungle Cruise, a movie based on no one's favorite Disney ride, featuring The Rock in the jungle. Not to be confused with that other movie with The Rock in the jungle, or the sequel to that other movie with The Rock in the jungle, or that other movie with The Rock in the jungle, or that other movie with The Rock in the jungle, or that other movie with The Rock in the... A little bit ago I said that I was going to be talking about another cult of personality actor. Well, The Rock is the embodiment of the thing that I said Ryan Reynolds was becoming. Little to no range as an actor, relying entirely on people's image of them and their charisma to sell tickets, and the result is apparently a can't-miss hit machine. Except Baywatch, I guess. As far as the actual movie goes, do you like Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, you better, because you're getting an inferior version of it. There's a really weird running gag where The Rock's nickname for Emily Blunt's character is Pants. It was so unfunny, and they repeated it so many times that it circled back around and made me laugh at the fact that somebody in the writer's room apparently said, "Now that right there is comedy gold. We've really got to get some mileage out of this one." 3 out of 10. Magnolia. This is from Paul Thomas Anderson, who, from what I've seen of his work, might be in contention to overtake my favorite director spot, and from that you can probably infer that I loved this movie. This is not a casual watch though. This is 3 hours long, and still somehow I feel like that runtime was totally justified, which is a pretty big thing for me because I complain about movies being too long quite a bit. This is an ensemble piece of people who might not seem like they have much in common at first, but as the film goes on, the similarities of their circumstances become more and more clear. For the length, it manages to keep things visually interesting as well, which is pretty impressive. This also features probably the best acting that Tom Cruise has ever done, and if there's one thing that PTA is amazing at, it's getting every actor that he works with to give their absolute all to the performance. Sometimes it can feel like overacting in this movie, but it still hits home nonetheless. There's also an amazing scene near the end of the movie that just comes completely out of nowhere, and the fact that it comes out of nowhere is really helpful to the message of the movie. I'm not gonna spoil that part for you. You just have to see it for yourself. It's awesome. 9 out of 10. Alright, so that does it for part 1 of this video. I should be posting part 2 soon, so keep an eye out for that, Jason. You better watch it. I'll know if you don't. Subscribe too, Jason. I know you're not subscribed. You don't want to know what I do to people who don't subscribe to my channel.